Live. You're listening to Live with Men, the podcast.
So this is Men, the podcast. Kuna this podcast channel that I follow. So we are like, what is something you say so often kwenye podcast yako? And automatically, you know what came to my mind? This is Men, the podcast. So this is Men, the podcast. Karibu sana na asante sana kwa kutusikiliza tena kwa mara nyingine. We appreciate and love each and every one of you. Remember, Twitter @Men the podcast, Instagram @Men the podcast. And not only that, you can also check out Nadia through Mind Matters TZ on Instagram and Mind Matters TZ on Twitter. Kwenye bio yake kuna link, itakupeleka kwenye website yake, alafu kwenye website yake kuna njia ya kuwasiliana naye. Point ya msingi ni kwamba if you make it, it's a process. Na mpaka ufike kule, manake kweli una nia ya kumtafuta na you are serious na you really need kuongea na Nadia, right?
Yes.
How are you, my friend?
I'm great.
You're right.
I'm good.
So Nadia ni resident psychologist ambaye tunakuwa naye every week kwenye Men the podcast. Now, one of the main reason we need her ni kwamba we are trying to bring in a professional point of view or mtazamo wa kitaalam kuhusiana swala zima ambalo tunataka kulizungumzia kwenye Men the podcast. Other asipokuwepo na kwa watu washikaji hilo wamekaa tu wanapiga soga. Na sio kitu ambacho tunajaribu kufanya huko ndani. So yeah, we appreciate you and please keep on being a men by association. Always. Given, what's up?
I'm Gucci.
You just flow. Sounds good.
Probably you really call umri uko sawa, so I'm not gonna blame you. Yeah, given you're Gucci.
I'm Gucci.
Nice
I'm cool
to
like
have,
a penguin.
Nice to have you. You're cool like a penguin. Nice to have you here, my guy.
It's good to be had.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. And Given does a lot of stuff with Simba Sports Club. And mimi ni mshabiki wa Yanga vibaya mno. So, nadhani hapo tayari watu wanaelewa dynamics of mahusiano yetu ziko vipi. I enjoy, I love really giving up.
I feel like me coming here is the biggest test of maturity I've ever gone through. I was like, wow, I'm grown.
Yeah. And for my end, ni kujaribu kuona namna gani naweza remain objective bila kuongea upuuzi katikati.
I think the hardest was the first text. I think that was the hardest.
Yeah, like should I reply? Should I not reply?
Like really, I think my first reply to Mike was just like, "Hi, Given." I think my response was, "Leave me alone."
Yeah.
That was my reply.
Yeah. So Given does a lot of stuff for Simba, lakini pia ni mshabiki mkubwa sana wa Simba Sports Club.
So you're gonna say Yanga.
Yeah, I don't want him to walk out now. So yeah. So we have this very funny relationship. It's football. Quarter and a lot of football. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. Simba ikishinda, I'm not happy about it. Yanga ikishinda, he's not happy about it. Yanga ikifungwa, lakini na Simba ikifungwa, we are both. It's a good day. It's a good day.
Could happen to anyone.
Yeah. Simba afungwe Yanga ashinde. Oh boy. Au Simba afungwe na Yanga. Oh boy. So yeah, it is what it is. But then we are here kuongelea kuhusiana mental health or Given is here. Now, just to give it a little bit of context, when we did our first episode 2019, Given sent me a text. Do you remember that text? Au ndo mtenda hakumbuki lakini mtendewa anakumbuka.
Mlamiwa hakumbuki.
Yeah. So I remember exactly what he said on that text. Na mambo kubadilisha simu. So but I remember exactly what he said. He was like, "Thank you guys for doing this podcast." So I cannot say word for word, but the context was, "Thank you guys for doing this podcast." And it's about time. The conversation ambayo ilikuwa inahitajika sana kwa wanaume. So he said kwamba as a guy who grew up without a father, he has mastered the tech business and the tech world. He has mastered entrepreneurship na vitu kama hivyo. He's smart, he's been places, he's seen things, he's traveled around the world. But then when it comes to issue kama relationships, nadhani relationship in general, sio tu mahusiano ya kimapenzi, lakini nadhani tu mahusiano na watu kwa ujumla, lakini vivyo mahusiano na opposite sex na vitu kama hivyo. There is something that is missing because of ile gap ya kutokuwa na a father figure. And for me that was like, wow, that was 2019 November after we did our first episode. So for me that was like, okay, wow, this thing is bigger than we thought. So, and I was like, I think you should come to the podcast na kuzungumzia hichi kitu. It was like, what do we say to the Game of Thrones, you know the saying what they say, what do we say to the god of death? Not today. It's like, given was like, maybe someday. So maybe someday when I'm good and comfortable enough. And I think I asked about it three or four times later. It was like, he was always like,
check it every now and then.
And it was not like, Michael, not now. Just muda ukifika tuzungumzia. So like a month ago, it was, and as we were talking about some other things, it's like, you know what? I think it's time now we have that conversation. I was like, oh wow, this is dope. So let's do it. So here we are, my guy. Thank you for coming through, and thank you for being that guy where you're like, because for me, considering kwamba it's been almost 2 years, manake probably there's a process or there are things that you feel like you had to either deal with or unpack or whatever for you to get to the position of saying, you know what, now we can speak about it openly. So what has that 2 years been like for you?
I think for me the past 2 years the biggest thing has been to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. And when I say understand, sio kwa maana ya the tech part of it or the business part of it, I'm clear about that, but kuelewa what drives me, you know. There was one when nilipata investment ya kwanza ya mtaji tulipata South Africa, tulienda kule tulikutana na baadhi ya entrepreneurs ambao they are able to sell their businesses for even $200, so they know what they're doing. Na moja ya vitu ambavyo walituambia ni kwamba in your business you need to figure out what's the one thing that has to be true, otherwise everything else doesn't make sense, otherwise everything else is irrelevant. And so for our business, for our product, ambapo wanafunzi wanaweza maswali anapata majibu, the one thing that had to be true ni kwamba wanafunzi anapouliza maswali anapata jibu sahihi, not just jibu. If they're getting jibu sio sahihi, then they are just getting to the wrong answer quicker, even if it's fast, you know, or even if we are using a shiny gold app, we're just helping them get the wrong thing. And so for me, nikaanza kufikiria, even with everything that I do, kwangu, what has to be true, otherwise kila kitu ambacho nakifanya is meaningless, you know, what anchors me. That was one. But two, I also started thinking, where does it end? Kwa sababu if you don't have an exit, then unakuwa unakimbia bila mwisho. You know, so I had to ask myself, what does it mean to be successful in my own terms? Kwa sababu it never ends. At first unasema unataka kufikia watu 1000. Ukifikia watu 1000, you will move to watu 2000. You know, and then watu 3000. There's always going to be the next milestone. Hata mwanafunzi ambaye darasani asomi atasema nataka nipasi tu. Mungu atafanya anachokifanya, atapasi. The next exam atasema nataka nipate A. Atapata A. The next atakwambia nataka nipate A kwenye masomo yote. Atapata A kwenye masomo yote. Akitoka hapo atasema I wish nilikuwa kuna masomo 8 ili nipate A tena masomo 8.
There's always more. They say you're always chasing the next high.
Exactly. And so for me, I had to clearly define those two things. One, what is it that centers me? I'm back home. All my decisions have to give back to that. And two, where does it end? Like niliona kwamba I have to get to a point where I can say I've succeeded. You know, and not just by everybody's metric, but by a metric ambayo mimi nimeiweka, which is tailored to my life story, to my talents, and to where I want to go. So I spent most of the time doing that, kwa sababu I figured if you have that clear why you're doing what you do, you won't even need motivation. That's one. For some, you know, it's bigger than adrenaline rush. And when that's clear, hata discipline, it will come. So that's what the 2 years have been about. Lakini kikubwa they have been about mimi kufikiria, you know, they say every day is the first day for the rest of your life. Yeah. So how do I want that to look like? You know, so that's what 2 years have been about. Just centering everything. Ndio maana even kwa watu ambao wamekuwa wakifuatilia activities zangu mfano, it's like I've stepped away a bit from the spotlight-ish of tech and everything, and it has been by design. Because one of the things that I discovered is, moja, I'm trying to create a new culture of what it means to be kijana ambaye ni innovative. Mimi nilivyokuwa nimeanza safari ya innovation, kulikuwa kuna image fulani ambayo you need to have ili uonekane mtu uko serious, ambayo ni
Neldy, geeky.
Yeah. And then kama ni kijana, basi your look and feel iwe ya kizee. You know, counter suit, sijui, you are using suspenders, you are using big words when you are talking, you have this wise thing going on. You know, that was the thing that I grew up seeing. Hata watu that I would look up to when you take, of course they had that. There's a way of speaking which is like, this a young person who is doing something. And so I wanted Modia to dismantle that. I wanted to say you don't have to give up your youthfulness for you to be innovative or to pursue your dreams. Ndio maana kwa watu ambao wamekuwa wakifuatia kwenye social media, the given wa kuanzia 2013 mpaka 2015-17, that period is different from what's sahihi. Matter of fact, if you had to put it in chronological order, you would think who you're saving ndio yule. You know, kwa sababu nilikuwa, I was the proper image of a young person who the society would say this is a proper young person by their standard. I thought the right way by those standards. I spoke the right way by those standards.
You fitted in.
I fitted in perfectly, you know, because that's the image I found of a young person. But then kwa sasa hivi, I'm trying to make it, to normalize being a smart young person, to make it normal. It's like anybody can be smart, you know. A person can speak crazy things about soccer and yell like kijana wa mtaani, and then tomorrow morning you see him presenting some idea in the US or whatever, you know. So I wanted to normalize that. Isionekane kwamba you have to give up some good elements za ujana just because you are trying to get people to take you seriously, you know. And that's why we end up having some very sad old young people, kwa sababu they have grown up to realize I sacrificed being young for this, but looking back I don't think it was worth it, you know. They realize kwamba they say unapokuwa na miaka 20 you worry a lot about what other people think, and then ukifikisha miaka 40 you no longer care about what people think. Maybe that's why they say life begins at 40. You know, it's like you no longer care. And then when you hit 60 you realize people haven't even been thinking of you in the first place. So that's why wazee wengi ukiwafuata they're like, just do what makes you happy. You know?
And that comes, and I think the conversation me and Nadia were having, and we talked about the power of, and me and you were taking the same thing, just we talked about the power of experience and the power of wisdom.
You can't substitute
and,
experience.
Yeah, and how namna gani sometimes you gotta admit kwamba kuna vitu that just comes with age.
Yeah,
kuna vitu ambavyo you never any like.
Yeah.
You look at example na kwaga ni kwamba nikiangalia mentality yangu nilivyokuwa chuo na nilivyoanza kazi my first year na sasa hivi I'm like na the only thing ambacho imenisaidia kukua sasa hivi at least professional is because of experience. unapoomba kazi unakwambia 5 years experience, that is what they're looking for. You know, the experience, the mistakes that you've made, the things that you've learned, you know, the things that have shaped you, the things that have built you, you know, the things above you've had to let go. Kuna vitu ambavyo ulikuwa unaviamini kweli kweli, lakini as you grow you realize unakutana na watu ambao wanaanza kupangua zile mbili zako moja moja.
Where you are so sure.
When you are so sure. Now you're like
so now because of that you end up having a big margin of safety in everything. Kila kitu.
Speak of that a bit.
It's like there's the kind of freedom and confidence that can only come from being a beginner. Unapoanza, you know, when you're young you don't know as much, so you take big swings, and for you everything is possible, which is good. You need it, but then after a while you learn to put a margin of safety. What experience teaches you is you need to have a margin of safety. Kwamba no matter what decision you're making, or what you think you know about a person, what you think you know about a situation, always reserve a good chance that you may be wrong. You know, it's like no matter how sure you are, and that can only come from experience, whereby you remember a moment where you've been right, where you thought you were right. The logic made sense, perhaps the business side of it made sense, the heart, the brain, the hands, they all agreed. But then you realize everything can make sense and you can still be wrong. And so everything you do, you approach it with that mindset of there's a big chance that I'm wrong, there's a big chance that I'm missing something. That way, even if you fail cheaply, to a point it hasn't costed you so much in terms of emotionally, but also in terms of investment, either with time or money.
Does that also does that account for investing on things and people emotionally as well? Should we apply that?
I believe so. So kama given basically you're putting in a protective element in place. Kwamba I'm going to, if it's a relationship, I'm going to give wholeheartedly. I'm going to be there, mindfully present 100%. Lakini, if anything is to happen, I know I'm not going to crash 100% as well. That there was this part of me that knew there's a potential of this not working out. You know, whether in business or in relationship, so that you don't completely crumble, in a sense. Because doing that, you might sit and think, okay, but if I do that, then I'm going to always interact with a pinch of salt, invest with a pinch of salt. So in a way, if you were to think of it in the moment, you might think that way, that okay, this is gonna make me not be 100% fully present. But actually, that's not it. That you're saying, I'm not going to be in denial. Sometimes things fall apart. But I have that, I know that things do fall apart, and I'm not going in looking for them to fall apart. I'm going in for them to work. Like, if they do fall apart, I know that I'm not going to crumble. That I have this cushion, like a safety net, that's going to help me bounce back. Resilience. It's kind of setting yourself up to be resilient. Nikikutana na adversity yoyote, I know I have the capacity to bounce back. That the period it will take me to get back on my feet will not be very big. It will be a smaller period of time. Because I'm ninajua that potentially this could happen.
Unajua the biggest issue katika jamii yetu we have, and this ties to personal relationships, we have so many choices. You know, choices of who you want to form a relationship with, choices of which business you want to pursue, choices of how your life can be. Kama binadamu, we are past a point where lack of choice is what stopped us from making a good decision. We are past that point. We are past that point. We are at a point where choices are making us not enjoy our decisions. Kwa sababu, when you have so many choices, that increases the level of expectations of how perfect that choice should be. Does that make sense? Mike, kama leo wewe nakwambia uchague saa, nikikupa saa moja kama zawadi, you will love it. But nikikupa saa 2, you will love it, but you will also keep on wondering parts not taken. You know? But ile saa ya pili ilikuwa na hiki. What if that was good? Sasa imagine having saa 1,000.
Yeah.
You know? Whereby at any given moment you can have another saa. So the one I said, we are past that point where our challenge was having choices, where that stopped us from making a good decision. Now we are at a point where many choices are affecting our happiness, regardless of what we pick. And this is something mwandishi mmoja Barry Schwartz alikiandika kwenye kitabu chake cha Paradox of Choice. Alisema the more choices we have, the more unhappy we will be with whatever choice we make. Because it raises our expectations of how perfect our choice is supposed to be. Sasa this is the same thing that is happening kwenye mahusiano, especially ya sisi vijana. We are at a point where, mfano ukiwa, let's say this place we are at. Imagine we are living here and then kila siku asubuhi tunapoamka, mimi ndio mwenye nyumba, nyie wapangaji. Every single asubuhi we have to sign a contract whether utakaa hapa leo and whether wewe utaka kukaa hapa leo. Whenever mmoja kati yetu akisema hataki, then it ends there. Every single morning. Would you be moved hata kama sijui kuna ka scratch hapo ukafix?
No.
You know?
No.
Au kama ukija kwa mimi nyumba kaniambia babu inazingua ni hiyo nyingine mpya.
No.
Do you think I won't? Kwa sababu I'm like, what if you leave tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know? And so it's the same thing that's happening with mahusiano. The reason most of them don't work isn't because people aren't perfect, but because people are scared of making investments and then tomorrow unaondoka. Kwa sababu people have choices every single day. Kila siku wanamshana na watu ambao they feel they could have a relationship with. Kwenye mitandao ya kijamii, kwenye maofisini, mashuleni, vyuo, you meet with these people, so you are killing your relationship by being afraid to be killed. You know? So you're in a situation whereby hautaki to invest.
It is also a choice.
It is also a choice.
It is also a choice.
Yeah.
Catch-22.
Exactly.
Catch-22, yeah.
Catch-22. Ndio maana communication is really important, and this is something mimi huwa najaribu sana kufanya. Whenever I'm trying to form a relationship, and when I say whenever, it seems like it's a lot of time.
Hey, right.
Like give us one days every weekend.
It's like, okay.
Week in, week out.
No.
Week in, week out.
But it's something that's very important for me to communicate kwamba hichi ndio kitu ambacho naki-expect. You know? And whenever I feel kwamba we are looking for different things, I make it a point to say, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work with me. Kwa sababu wanasema when you invent the ship, you also invent the shipwreck. So, which means unapotengeneza mahusiano na mtu, pia unampa huyo mtu nguvu ya kuumiza. Yeah. And so you don't want to give that power to a person who can take it lightly. Or a person who is
but also
or a person who is intending to use it at some point.
But here's my thing though.
Yeah.
When you speak of that, and umeland kwenye relationship, let's talk about that. So my thing, and this is my personal opinion, yeah. I think you go into a relationship, and now we can, let's say, come a marriage. You go into it, you're thinking more for the better or for the worse, right? And now I know for a fact, but there's a very fine line here, especially when it comes for the worst. But for the better, it's good. For the better, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
that's sorted. Explain. But I'm talking about for the worst. I think for generation ya nyuma yetu, I'm talking about our parents and their parents and what. Yani wenyewe they would really stick it out, unless any case any cases were exceptional kabisa. You know, lakini I feel like kwa generation yetu now, for the worst tumechora mipaka. Kwamba there are things about doesn't tolerate, and there are things that I cannot tolerate. You know? You're saying?
There can be boundaries.
There can be boundaries, kama Nadia alivyosema. And then because of that now, that's when I feel like people get into the relationship knowing kwamba I can get out if I want. Even when it comes to marriage. And I feel like that's the problem ambayo watu wengi ambao tuko kwenye marriage sasa hivi, that's the struggle that we go through. You know, we when we say what do we mean for the worst? When mstari tunachora wapi? Which is worse? What entails? Any mbaya zaidi ni ipi? Kwa sababu Nadia akiniambia kwake mbaya, akija kwangu I'm like, but that's okay. Hicho ni kitu ambacho kinazungumzika na vitu kama hivyo. So because of that now it comes back to uchokono ngetoka mwanzo kwamba now we go into the relationship with that the whole forever till death do us apart thing, except if you do 1 2 3 4.
Exactly.
And I do not think kama any, I don't know. I don't want to blame anybody, and I'm trying to be sensitive here. Man, I am mambo ya siku hizi kuongea vibaya tu. Kana mnaso tanifuata. Sasa unadhania wewe
Look, I think the hardest part, or at least mimi ninavyoona, is where the rules are not clear. It's easy to akisema as long as you do this. But it becomes tricky when the person says whenever I feel like I want to leave. Because then it's because then that's why a person will want to invest their time and emotion in that. Because they may do everything and then you're like, I'm
not
gone.
here anymore.
It's like, yeah, but like, what did I do? You know, or like, what is it that you are looking for? You know, and so that's why most people, vijana, kuna ile culture ya kuchukulia mahusiano kama you can jump in and leave anytime. And I'm not saying that's bad. Of course it should be, because some people look for different things in relationships at different times. The most important thing comes is communication. Find a person who is looking for what you are looking for as well. You know,
you look for it together.
And you look for it together. Kwamba, if what I'm looking right now is just a fling, then say I'm looking for a fling. You know, find a person who's also looking for a fling. But it can't be you're looking for a fling. You know, and you're like, mimi naoa. Unajua, like mimi kesho nataka unipeleke nyumbani. Wanamsema wanakwambia, I have something to talk to your father. Anakwambia your father has something to talk about. And so that's the thing. And I think on my personal reflection has been about finding out what am I looking for. So, and more than what I'm looking for, but what is what I'm looking for influenced by. So, it's just like I don't just think about what I want, but also why I want it, and what has informed that. Is it coming from a point of lacking something? Is it coming of me trying to outsource the responsibility of feeling complete? You know, because sometimes you may think you need a girlfriend, but in truth you just want to be known. You know, you just want someone to call yours, or a place to call yours.
Let me ask you this now. Your upbringing, your experiences, ulizopitia, how much has they shaped who you are right now?
They have a lot. I think kubwa ni kwamba my goals for a very long time zimekuwa oriented towards my family. And by my family I mean my twin sister and my mom. Mostly because for most part I'm pretty much the man of the house. And I have been since like from the beginning. Kwa sababu one, I've moved faster than my sister, but also I've moved faster than mom. So basically in my family.
But what do you mean that you move faster than your sister?
In terms of getting to a point where we can support the family. Yeah. Mimi, I started working in Bukoba from 5, officially working. Niliapply kazi ya web development. Nilijifunza mwenyewe kutengeneza website. Nilipokuwa from 5 Kibasila. Nikaomba kazi Goethe Institute. Because there was a German lady, Sila. I think she was in her 60s or something. Nikatuma CV, and based on my CV, ilikuwa imeshiba kwa sababu I had done some great things.
For 5 years nimeshiba.
Yeah.
Tuchote baba, tuchote.
No, it was like kwa tayari nimeshatengeneza some great websites.
Yeah.
I had some very good clients, you know, and everything was perfect. I'm saying ilikuwa imeshiba kwa sababu that was from 5. From 6 mwishoni and mwaka wa kwanza chuo is when I'm getting the award from the Queen.
Wow.
You know, so you can imagine from when I'm getting the award from the Queen, how 2 years before that must have been like.
Yeah.
It's like I must have done something.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
so mpaka by the time naenda kuapply hiyo kazi nilikuwa nakasifika zuri, akani-invite. By the time naingia na kuamini kwamba ndo wewe
Katoto
kadogo, kwa sababu nilikuwa nimetoka shule moja kwa moja.
Na uniform.
No, nilibadilisha kwa sababu I felt this is
Child labor.
This is not instilling confidence.
You're pushing it.
Yeah, I'm pushing it. Basi nikaenda. And she couldn't believe, she was like, "You're given?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm given." And then akaniambia, "You know, nimeona CV yako, everything is perfect. But you are young." You know, and why should we give this, like taking you on board is a risk. Because you haven't worked in these companies before. Why should we take that risk? You know? And mimi nikamwambia, you know, I told her a ship is very safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are for. You know, kwamba I'm taking this risk kwa sababu I'm not meant to be safe. I'm meant to move and grow. And me coming here is growth. So you're taking a risk, but I'm also taking a risk. So nikaanza kufanya kazi hapo. And I remember mshahara wangu wa kwanza niliopata ndio tumia kufunga umeme nyumbani. That was like my very first salary. You know? Obviously kabla yapo nenda sema nikanunua chips na kuku nusu.
It's coming. Ukatafanya mali.
Yeah, nilisema ngoja kwanza nisimame the way men of the house usually stop somewhere kunywa beer. You know, I don't drink. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna have namba na kuku nusu na chips mayai na Fanta baridi. Nikashiba.
Kama typical men of the house.
Yeah, kama typical men of the house, you know. Yeah. And so baada hapo ndio nikaenda nyumbani, but that in itself should tell you where I drew my sense of what it means to be a man. From that point, it just came not from seeing, but from just thinking what it means to be a man. You know, kwa sababu my grandfather, who was halfway a father figure. I'm not saying a father figure fully, kwa sababu yeye mwenyewe alikuwa ana watoto 8, you know, and ana wajukuu like 10 na kitu. You know, I was his favorite, yeah, but I was just that, you know. And so that's when a sense of responsibility began for the family, you know. So hata my view of ujana is a bit responsible. And I'm not saying responsible kama neno la kwamba, you know, anajua majukumu yake. Any young person can be that, but from the point of I have to kujua majukumu yangu. You know?
Like it's not an option for you.
It is not an option. You know, I have to make it or make it. Ndio maana, and I never usually say this from a point of pride, but from a point of reality. Kwamba in as much as I'm 27, when I interact with people without them meeting me, they would think I'm in my 35 or I'm in my 40s, based on basically how I see things or how I think about things. And that sort of informs even my social media presence for like the past 10 years or so. It had been very high level, you know, to a point whereby, like, I remember there was a time, I think it was 2012, General Makamba alikuwa anaanzisha blog. Yeah, I think ilikuwa inaitwa Taifa or Taifa or something, you know. And based on my way of thinking and how I was seeing things on social media, he reached out, he said, I want you to start writing on my blog, you know, send me something. And at that point I was like, I go from 5. You know, who do you think I am?
Who do you think I think I am?
You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of things also started from there. That position, that helped me grow. Unajua nikaanza kufanya kazi na sisi kama TYVA, Head of Research and Information. niko form 6 but I'm traveling kwenda mikoani ya Arusha mbalimbali talking about the constitution and East Africa community and why we need to get on board the opportunities that lie in it. Unajua, I'm teaching myself software development kwenye internet etc. all that time. And huu ndio muda ambao on my social media it's like I started creating my profile. Ambako for most part when wakisoma bio kwamba this is the head of research and information at Tanzania Education Association, this guy is working with the UN to create the model UN conference etc. I think he's a very established person, but in actual sense level from 5 from 6, you know, all that led into me viewing relationships, even hizi za mahusiano ya boyfriend girlfriend very different, kwa sababu I'm not just seeing it as something that I'm trying to discover what I like in a girl or whatever, because I already know, you know, and what I like is it going to be away from what is going to help me continue being the person I am, not just to my family but also to grow into that person. But then the other challenge that comes with that is I don't exactly have a model of what it means to be the perfect boyfriend or to be the perfect husband. Kwa sababu I haven't lived to see what a husband is like. And since I've been fulfilling some of my family's needs from like from 5, so the only thing I know about being a good, let's say, husband is the same things that I've been doing in terms of being there for a person, providing. Yeah? And because I haven't been able to have a model of what it means to be a perfect husband, there hasn't also been a man to tell me what it means to be a perfect boyfriend. You know? And so, all that is something that I have had to figure out mwenyewe.
Have you figured out that yet? Have you figured that out?
For most part. I think the biggest part that I've figured out is that as far as being a boyfriend at this point is concerned, there has to be a safety net. In terms of being the best boyfriend has less to do with what you are doing and more about finding a person who is looking for what you are doing. You know, it's like, for example, you can be the best mango in the world, and there's still going to be somebody who hates mangoes. So it has nothing to do with you. You are the best mango there could be, but they're just not looking for a mango. So the trick, at least what I've figured out to this point, to being a good partner, is finding a person who is looking for what you are providing, yeah, and beyond that, not looking at the other person as the measure of you.
You're speaking like Will Smith right now. that is Will Smith like kind
and
of.
We know what happened.
And we know what happened. Entanglement.
But what I'm trying to say with that is this. Look, when ukutana na msichana, sawa, mvulana, but for my case, let's say msichana, huyu mtu kama mimi mfano, yeah, kama mvulana nimekuwa katika mazingira tofauti ambayo yamenidirect ndoto zangu, yamenidirect what I'm looking for out of life, what I'm looking for out of a partner, what I'm looking for out of everything I do, the mental support or the mental state I'm in, the mental strength that I have, etc. When I meet with a girl and I tell them I don't want to be with them, it should never be a reflection of them. Kwa sababu out of everything that I've been through in my life, of what you have had up to this point, what makes you think you're automatically number one pick for love of my life? You know? It's like, why? Because you love me? Because that love may be from you, about you, but my life is about me. You know? So it has nothing to do with you. And it's the same approach I usually use whenever I'm trying to form a relationship. It's like when a person thinks I'm not for them, I get them. Kwamba you have your whole life, kuna ndoto zako, kuna vitu ambavyo umepitia vilivyokujenga wewe. which means you saying no to me is not personal. It's just not what you are looking for. It goes back to saying you may be the best mango in the world, and there's still somebody who doesn't like mangoes. So that informed me to think about relationships in terms of what is it that I'm looking for, but also to be very communicative about it. It's like, if you're still trying to figure out, let me know, so that I know what I'm working with. There's a famous saying, all happy marriages are alike, and happy marriages are unhappy for different reasons. And the point being, the things that it takes to make a marriage work are common. They cut across. They have to be true. Back to the question of what has to be true, otherwise everything else is irrelevant. So it's the same thing. What I'm trying to figure out up to this point is what has to be true in partnerships. Otherwise everything else, even if you are killing it, becomes irrelevant.
So I want to bring Nadia in now, in terms of what Given has said, kutambua yeye anachokitaka, kumtambua mtu mwingine kwamba it's not about you, sometimes it's just about me and my journey. It's not you, it's me. Typical. Men are trash. You know. But then I want to go a little bit further now. You look at the context, that because again you have to put in context, and then context hapa, you look at his upbringing, majukumu alianza kuyapata katika umri, so definitely will shape his view of the world and how he wants to see things. Inakuwa challenge kiasi gani for a person like this now anapojaribu kukutana na mtu ambaye probably baba mama wamekuwepo nyumbani, mtoto wa kike, nimekuwa vizuri, you know, my ideal for men ni huyu hapa na vitu, sababu you know, unachojua ndio ambacho unataka kuwa sometimes, au hutaki kuwa. So kama baba ndio yuko hivi, so ideal husband ni huyu, ideal woman na huyu, and then ukutana na mtu kama Given ambaye he's had to figure that out on his own. Challenges na kuwa kubwa kiasi gani?
Well, the first ni kwamba kama tunamuongelea Given you are our case study today.
You're a guinea pig.
You are a guinea pig. No. So what it sounds like is that from an early age umeanza kujitambua. You know, when we talk about responsibilities, you can't just know your responsibilities if you don't know who you are, where you are, and what is required of you, or what you require of yourself. All that feeds into the self-awareness. Najitambua kwamba kwa sasa this is where I am, na hichi ndo nahitaji nifanye, this is what is required of me by the people around me, and this is what I require of myself. Sasa ukiingia into, let's say tunaongelea relationships now, so when we're talking about relationships, not work, sindio? Unaingia with this level of awareness kwamba mimi huyu, this is who I am, and this is what I need, and this is what I am looking for. Watu wengi, we enter relationships unconsciously. Uchokiongelea hapo, nimesha soma template, babangu ndo yuko hivi, mamangu yuko vile, this is how relationships are. Hizo ni templates, blueprint ambazo we are being fed from an early age. Na wengi wetu, kwa sababu it meets the society, it's like a way of life, tayari imeshatengenezwa. We never question much about this relationship, is it right, is it not? Lakini kama if it's not there, it's absent, na kwingine ipo, it gets you to think, what does a relationship actually look like? So from an early age unaanza kufikiria haya mambo. Lakini kama umekuwa navyo, it's just something, it's automated, but it's there and this is how it goes. So when you want to tunaingia in relationships unconsciously, we're looking for the patterns za wazazi wetu na wazazi wao. You know, it is when we become aware kwamba these are the patterns. Kama unakuta watu wengine ni serial, they cheat in relationships. Sio kwamba they are cheaters. Okay, they are cheaters if they are cheating, but
something ambacho wanaume watakubeba. I feel like unachotaka kuongeza hivi, wanaume watakubeba juu.
Lakini it's coming from somewhere. Unajua hizi patterns watu wanazipick up unconsciously. Kwamba muda mwingine it's just, this is what was happening. Either mzazi alikuwa anayaongelea, au this was a struggle mzazi wangu alipitia, you know, and the pattern lives through, because it's all generational. And that's why we talk about these generational traumas and things like that. Ni kwamba the patterns and the issues ambazo babu yetu na babu yake alipitia, they feed into through the generations. So they feed into our parents feed into us, we eventually feed into our kids, if we continue to be unconscious. Ndio maana being aware and being conscious breaks these generational patterns.
Yeah.
Sasa mtu ambaye from an early age umeshaanza kubuild that level of awareness about wewe mwenyewe umeshaanza kujitambua, unatambua unachokihitaji, it becomes hard to form relationships with someone who is unconscious kwa sababu hajui anatafuta nini. You know, it's only the person who is aware that this is what I'm looking for, this is what I need, these are the patterns that I have grown up with. That's the only time they can make informed decisions about what I need and I require from a relationship. Lakini if we're not conscious, we continue to just move through the motions. Wenyewe hatujui tunatafuta nini in a relationship. So it makes it hard. I think it makes, for anyone who has attained this level of self-awareness and they're in a position where they're recognizing these patterns and wanajua exactly nachokitafuta kwenye either a relationship or a marriage, it becomes hard. Kwa sababu you might not meet a partner ambaye yuko at the same level of awareness kama wewe. So what happens there? I think that's where, like what you're saying, it's not the other person.
Yeah.
It's really just me. I know what I need.
In the most sincere sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're not there yet. And that's okay. You know? Kila moja ana process yake, journey yake. It's not going into, let's say, ukiangalia most of the, if we talk about technology like vehicles, whatever, cars will have safety bags, airplanes have whatever, floaters, nini zile. So basically, it's not in place there kwa sababu they're expecting to crash. It's there because there is a potential, like you were saying, lazima uingie with this level of it might go wrong.
Yeah.
Because of experience, things go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sure hata hizi ndege ilikuwa zingine mwanzoni kule hawaweki vitu hivi, watu wakafa, many crashes happened and they put these measures in place. So I think it's the same here, that muda mwingine we can go in with this level of, when it comes to relationship, we can go in with this person might not be conscious. They probably don't know what exactly they're looking for, what they want. So we have this safety net that I know nikifika kwenye this stage and tukaona we're trying and we're pushing and they're really still not meeting what I am looking for and they're not who I am looking for, then I have this bag and I can say, you know what, it's okay.
Given, I want to go back to, you talked about, you want to add something
I
on
just
that?
wanted to add that.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've also been reflecting a lot these past few years is how I've already known what I want. Yeah. But I've also been reflecting on what is it that I have separated myself from myself in a manner of speaking. So mara nyingi huwa najiangalia
From a bird eye view.
Yeah, from an eye view, and I think what does given need sasa hivi, you know. And these past few years, one thing that I've been asking myself is, what is my view of relationships, or what I look for in a partner being informed by? And one thing that I discovered is, because I haven't grown up without a father figure, that's all I know how to do. Yeah, and for most people I try from a relationship with, that's something they like. Yeah, they find me to be responsible, you know. But to me, it's just really just me being me, you know, because that's what I've always done. It's like
what you know.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing? How can I support you get there? What do you need? Have you tried to sort this and this? That thinking of more of building. My view has hardly been about having fun. It's like, yeah, we can have fun. I know we can have fun, but I'm just so glued to building, because I've needed to build to a point whereby I feel the best way I can be there for a person beyond just fun is like help you achieve your goals. Because why wouldn't you try to achieve that?
And that's hard.
You know,
and that's hard. And that's like I can clearly visualize the problems that you're having in your relationship.
You know,
because you're like, I just want to have fun.
Yeah, why would you have fun? This is pointless.
And even is like, why have fun? You should be reading this book.
It's like, yeah, you can have fun, but like, what is it that you're trying to achieve out of life?
Oh, Jesus.
Throw me a big goal that you are trying to work on.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the sexiest thing to say to your partner, but I'm just saying
You should have them.
It's something that I think about, but that's on the plus side.
Yeah.
I can be very supportive in terms of in terms of helping you grow. Because at the end of the day, once, like Nadia said, once you have matured to that level, you're gonna come to this, wanting to build and grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
of which I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the other challenge is, I grew up with my mother alone, with no father figure. But then also katika upbringing, nilikuwa sana kwa babu na bibi. When I spend time with them, you know. And the result of that is it has my work and my entrepreneurship journey has led me to a space where I've been so busy, so busy. But it is only until this last few years where I paused, because I felt I'm at a point where I can relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have my business going on. You know, Mama Halija, I think I can pause a bit. And that made me start reflecting now, because me being busy trying to build something was, in actual sense, I was using it as a distraction from thinking about what I've gone through,
Facing the reality.
inform my emotional state. And that led me to realize, all that has led me to in an emotional state where I'm a little bit needy than an average guy, you know, because it then goes back to that need to belong, you know,
Sense of belonging.
So I started thinking about it, and I realized I'm a bit needy than a typical guy, you know, mostly because I haven't had that nesting, you know. It's like kuanzia darasa kwanza mpaka from 6, I think kukaa nyumbani na mama, it has only happened for 2 years or something.
Kwa ujumla ukiweka.
For all that time, you know. And so most of it has been in an extended family. So there has never been that closeness or belonging somewhere. So that led to a level of neediness that I'm aware of myself, you know. So because when you're aware of it yourself, it helps you avoid hearing it from another person and you thinking you're doing something wrong, you know. It's about even communicating, entering into a relationship, that look, one thing you have to know about me is I'm a little bit needy. I'm working on it, but that's where I am at the moment. I want to spend time with you every time. I would always, there's an emotional attachment style called anxious attachment, whereby you always feel like the person is going to leave anytime. And because people have always left, you look for the signs that this person is also going to do the same thing. So the little things that they do to you is like, you see, you know? And so that makes you a bit protective, more than average, or you feel like, since people have always left in my life, this person is also going to leave, which moves to the neediness part.
I'm glad you're opening about this non-engaged kitu kwa sababu it's something that a lot of Black Americans are talking about now, because most of them growing up in the projects, growing up in the hood, most of them, they were raised by a single mother. A lot of them, baba hakuwepo kwenye picha. So as they got older, kuna hiyo feeling of attachment na protecting what you have, you know, and then kuna ile mwisho ile point ya kufika kwamba, you know what, these are my people. It's only this that I need, for everybody else, kwa sababu hawa ndio watu wangu ambao najua hawataniacha. Kwa hiyo ikitokea tu mtu mwingine yote anajaribu kuingia kwenye ile picha, the first question is like, who the fuck are you? And then what are you trying to do? And then you're like, okay, if I get too comfortable with you and then you leave, then what's going to happen to me? And that posed a lot of challenge in terms of moving on and forming new relationships.
And it's because as a guy, as a Black American guy, can't tell your girl you are needy. You know? It's like
You
he's a
can't.
bitch ass nigga.
Yeah, don't be a bitch ass nigga.
You can't. But in actual sense,
Even here you can't.
Even here you can't.
Matter of fact, how ukijaribu katika Tanzanian context, how do you say you are needy kwa Kiswahili? Unahisi
Kwa
vipi?
Kiswahili is controlling.
Kwa Kiswahili inakuwa controlling.
You know?
Lakini if you say you decided to unpack a little bit more, utasema unamfatafata, unamngangania mtu.
You know?
Unaona, lakini
but it helps to know that. Kwamba
Yeah.
when you're aware kwamba, you know what, I'm a bit this and I need to understand that I'm a bit this, I'm working towards fixing this. And that's going to take a while, but if you're willing to work with me towards that, that's fine. And then, you know, the problem is it goes further to a point of affecting your business. Kwa sababu your need to belong isn't a business need or a social need. It's an emotional need.
Yeah.
And the thing with emotional needs is you try to fulfill them wherever they can be fulfilled. You
They're
know?
not always rational.
Not always rational. So, because of that, you end up kujidogodesha whenever you're in business relationships. You're coming from a point of mdogo. It's like, I want this to work.
Yeah.
What you tell yourself is, I want this business partnership to work. But in actual sense, you want this partnership to work. Does that make sense? You are there in a business negotiation, you're trying to make the business work because it's a good business deal. And so that's how you rationalize to yourself that I want this business partnership to work. But if you're being honest with yourself, you want this partnership to work because that's what you're looking for, a partnership. To belong, to be part of something. And that's going to affect, like that's not a very good thing to have when your business depends on negotiation. Because in the end of the day, you're going to be willing to be pushed further just so that you can have that sense of, I formed a partnership. In your mind, it's like I formed a business partnership, but in your heart, it's like you formed a partnership.
Yeah.
You know, a partnership that lasts. Somebody wants to do something with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you need to be aware of that. But this is affecting the way I do business. It's like you find yourself in a position where you can't walk away from a business deal.
Because
You need that
With the
partnership to work.
relationship, yeah.
You know? It's not the business partnership. You need that partnership to work.
Yeah.
And so you find yourself in a position where you are at the mercy of another person. You're just hoping they become good guys and don't try to push you so much.
I think that cha muhimu ni hiyo level of awareness kwa sababu when it comes to attachment styles, they're very unconscious patterns that we've kind of adopted, we've generated. And so the one thing that these attachment styles do, they make us seek out the same type of relationship. So if I am an anxious or an avoidant attachment type, I will look for relationships that will resonate with that. And will confirm that no one will actually stay. When you're unconscious,
you're just
you seek
to
people.
validate kwamba I was right.
I was right.
Nobody stays.
Yeah. So you will only form relationships with people who will actually leave you.
To a point whereby you will push them to the edge,
Yes.
just so that you can prove kwamba nobody
I was right. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It feeds back into that template. Kwamba, okay,
Yeah.
actually people never stay.
And so the one thing that again you have to do at that point is to move yourself from the anxious or avoidant into a secure attachment.
And
Before
how
you even
do-
try form a relationship
Exactly.
with anybody.
And how do you do that? Kwanza inaanza with building that awareness kwamba, okay, I'm an avoidant. My attachment style is avoidant. Or my attachment style is anxious.
Yeah.
Because I want to please them all the time because najua wataniacha. So you're anxious to wanting to help make them stay. But that then pushes people away. You know? Or avoidant is you the cheaters often are avoidant. Because or sometimes a combination. Anaweza akasema, okay, before you leave me, I will leave you.
Just so that I can protect a sense of self-worth.
Ile concept tunasemaga mtaani kwamba huwezi kuniacha, mimi ndo nawaacha.
You can't fire me, I quit.
Exactly. Yeah. So the first step
JD said I don't get dropped. I drop the label. Yeah.
So the first step ni kwanza kujitambua. You can just sit and reflect to see how have my relationships looked like. Because that's the only way you can start to understand your pattern. Inabidi uanze ku understand pattern yako. How has my pattern been? Have I been avoidant of relationships? Have I been anxious about whenever I'm in a relationship?
And Nadia, I think one thing also to add there is to also ask yourself, how much are you compensating for it?
Yes.
So sometimes you can break your back to compensate for it.
Exactly. You know, am I moving heaven and earth just for this person to be in my life?
Yeah, just so that I can feel for once nobody's leaving.
You know?
So that's what you're seeking.
Yeah. Because when you're in that state, you're not actually, it's not healthy for you or for that person that you're in this relationship with. Your needs are actually never being met when you're in this state. It's just your fears that are being kind of soothed or confirmed, but your needs are never being met.
It's like you're not living, you're just trying not to die.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
You're just in survival mode.
And you've been in those situations.
In a way. The reason why I'm aware of all these things is because I've taken time to think about what informs my decisions as far as partnerships are concerned. So I've been to a place where I'm like, I wouldn't mind moving heaven and earth for you, but why do I want that?
Exactly.
And then you start questioning those things. You get deep down into it, and you realize this is what I'm trying to do. And then after that, you start seeing how it ties to everything around you, from your personal relationships to business relationships to your motivation to work to how you see people to how you brand yourself. You see how it is all linked. So for example, one of the things that I discovered, Mimi, is if you put my need for belonging, you put that together with having been the head of the family since the beginning, you put that with my talent, all you have is a very talented person who is trying to fulfill a need to belong by doing everything possible, using their talent. You put that together with the fact that I'm not coming from a family that is well off. Literally, my mom had me alipokuwa secondary, and alifukuzwa shule, akakuzwa na nyumbani for quite a while. She gave birth to twins.
That was struggle.
And the struggle, and ilibidi atule up to this point.
And the man was not present.
And the man was never present to date. I've never seen him. Sasa, you take that background, you put together with me trying to be the head of the family, because the other taxing thing about being this much self-aware is you also get to know the needs for your mother emotionally. You're a kid, but you know that your mother needs somebody they can rely on, somebody they can run to when problems are going wrong. So you also, in a way, try to
You have to step up
that role without it seeming like you're stepping up. Because then again, you don't want her to see like an somewhere. So it's a balancing act. How do you be there for her emotionally, while at the same time understanding the motherly instinct for her to feel like she's not burdening you? You put that together with the fact that entrepreneurship-wise, I'm still trying to find my path, to find my footing. You put all that together, what you end up having is a person who is always struggling between the urgent and the important. It's like, because I haven't established myself in a way that I have a good system where things like money or providing for my family is like sorted 24/7, 365. I always have the need to be there for my family. And because my family is not well off, there's always something I need to take care of. So there's always an urgent thing to take care of, to a point whereby, as much as I know who I need to be business-wise, I just don't yet have the bandwidth to be able to do that. Because then again, remember the whole trying to provide, and that being a validation of you being a man and providing. So you end up in that state whereby your key goal becomes to provide, but then since you are not established yet, that's all that happens.
You talked one day about looking for therapy.
Yeah.
Therapist.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to therapy?
No, I haven't.
You're planning to?
I
mean, what pushed you? Or what is pushing you?
What has pushed me? I think what has pushed me is simply much needing to think everything out loud. Unajua, the trouble with me having to, I call it kujilea, knowing who you need to be without somebody telling you from a very young age and molding yourself into that person. The problem with that is I haven't been able to form a lot of friendships You know, I have colleagues, people who know me, people who I know, from different places in Tanzania, across the world, but I don't think I can feel one hand if I'm to count friends, you know, people who we are not tied by business, or even if we're tied by business, it's deeper than business, you know, or people who I can call up and say, yo, I'm facing this relationship problem. Truthfully, I've never talked to anybody about relationship problems. I think it was like until 4 days ago, when a friend from high school, I met up with them, and I've been talking to them since. They know me, they know what I'm trying to achieve. It's like I've opened up to them before, they know what's going on. So that's the first time I was sitting like, yo, so how did you go with this lady? You know, I'm like, what are you doing? Okay, so what's going on right now, blah, blah, blah. That's the first time I excel. But apart from that, the only thing I do is just think out loud. Trying to think logically about emotional things can be a very taxing thing, because it forces you to ignore your feelings and just deal with the facts. And the facts don't always make sense to the heart. You know? So
Always, my guy.
always. And so sometimes you start wondering, am I doing too much? You know, you are stuck between trying harder or letting go. Kwa sababu you are not sure whether, and with these stories happening, you hear a person in the relationship, this happened. You know, the most important thing for you becomes to not be naive. You know? So it's like the anchor for you in relationships is to not be naive. I don't want to be stupid. You know, that becomes the most important thing. Because mind you, for example, you might have compensated previously, and that didn't go so well. And so they say once bitten, twice shy. And so now you're trying to understand it, and you're like, you know what? Do I want to be with this person simply because I actually believe this can work? Or am I trying to be with them again out of my need to belong somewhere? Or is my awareness of my need to belong somewhere taking away the fact that sometimes you have to fight for a relationship? Does that make sense? It's like you have so many information that are all useful. You know that you are trying to compensate. At the same time, you know that some partners can be assholes. But at the same time, you know some relationships need to be fought for. So you are trying to harmonize those three. And all that is happening while you still have that need to belong. And for some people, that's how they drop into addiction. Because when that becomes too much, you're like, I'm going to take alcohol. Because then it goes away. I think part of the reasons why I decided to never drink was that, so that I never turn into it as
source of comfort.
As a source of comfort. Plus, I also saw myself, kwamba, if I'm to, I usually tell people this in a very cocky way. I usually tell them I'm not surprised at where I'm at. I saw this happen. And what I usually meant by that is, I envisioned me being successful and I was working towards it. So I'm here, I'm like, thank you, God, for making this happen. But it's not exactly a surprise, because that's what I've been working towards. But I haven't just been working with that, on that kwa kujituma. I've also been working on that mentally, kujiandaa, so that when I'm here, sitetereki, you know, since the beginning. So me deciding not to drink from the time I was 11 was so that when I'm at this state right now, nisije nikafika hatua ninakuwa mlevi. Me deciding not to get intimate with anybody until I'm 20x was a result of so that I don't end up being a whore. Because I know, and this is something I thought like 15 years ago. I was like, I'm going to be very successful. I'm going to be at a point where I'm going to be somebody. When I'm at that state, it's going to be easy for me to be with anybody. And a lot of people are going to want to be with me. Not because I'm a catch, but because it will be something even I would want. And so I need to be able to kujilea again in such a point whereby when I'm at that state, even to be sensitization. So that's when I decided to, like, you know what, I'm not going to drink, and as far as sex is concerned, this is going to be a policy like that, you know. And all that information makes it a bit tricky for you to handle relationships well, unless you find a person either they are at that state of emotional maturity, or if they are not, then they know what they are lacking and they are working towards it, and you can work together. Your hope is to find a person who is secure and they are aware and they can accommodate where you are at emotionally, or find a person who is also trying to fix things and is putting in work. The biggest challenge we have is most people are not willing to put in work, or they are afraid on what they may find in the future.
I think fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
You know,
Fear of the unknown. It's always hard to go the other side of the room if you don't know what's
because you
in
know
there.
what you are going to find. You don't
Yeah.
want to ask questions that you know the answers to, that you can't handle the answers to. So to most people, they live on that autopilot.
And I think even you really unpacked a lot of the struggles that we go through, but we do not want to face. You know, and I'm talking about in relationship, kazini, it's something that is applicable pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
The sense of belonging, the importance of feeling kwamba we need to belong somewhere, and also the challenge that comes with that, without forgetting the context of where we come from, our background, our understanding, how we were shaped, how we view things, na vitu kama hivyo. Nadia, is there a way out?
There's always a way out.
Yes.
And when you be okay.
This is what I paid for.
There's always a way out. As you said, doing the work is the shortcut. There's a lot. It's not something that you just get. You know, kwa sababu hapo, you're not just working with your own issues. You're working with baggage from your parents, their baggage, their parents' baggage. When we're talking about relationships, kwa sababu these are things that go. It's like roots. So what you're dealing with is not just coming from your personal experience. Inakuja from the personal experiences za watu ambao they have lived before you. Kwa sababu let's say how your mother would interact with you is coming from her insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, so consciously or unconsciously. So hapo unabeba mzigo wa mtu mwingine. And then you live through your own experiences. Una mzigo wako wewe mwenyewe. So having that level of self-awareness is the first step once sasa to unpack and start to shed these weights. So cha muhimu unaanza kuangalia what is yours, what have I carried that does not belong to me. Because when you start working towards or working on things that don't belong to you, you'll never reach to a solution because it's not your stuff to work on to begin with. You know? So you need to unabidi uanze ku differentiate kwamba hivi ni vya kwangu, hivi ni vya wazazi au vya vizazi vilivyopita.
And also being able to say to make peace that this is not mine.
Yes.
Because I think that's the hardest thing. It's like, for example, you may see some things and a part of you is like, that's not your problem. But accepting that it's not your problem is the hardest part. Because again, remember, you have the need to be there for a person so that you can belong.
And I think especially when you're in relationships, that's a very difficult thing to do, in the sense that you find someone doing some stuff and you're like, that's entirely you. You know? That's entirely you. But then how we are built, you also try to make it about you. Wakati unajua kabisa, this is nothing to do with me. Huyu ni mtu na conscious yake, ni mtu mzima na maisha yake. They are making that kind of this. I might not agree with it. Probably I'm not cool with it, but that's them doing them.
So making peace with that can be...
It's hard.
Well,
it's difficult. Na pia muda mwingi people trigger what's already within us.
Speak on that.
So unaweza ukawa in a relationship and you feel that this person is so needy. And this person just always wants to be around me. But you're seeing that because somewhere within you that is present. Ndo maana you're repelled by it because that's something you don't want to have. As a person, I don't want to need someone else. I want to be able to fulfill myself. Na ndo maana every time someone else is really needy, you are kind of pushed away from them. Sio kwamba they repel you, ni kwamba you're repelled by your own need.
It's because I think I'm getting what you're saying. It's like you feel I also need to need someone.
Exactly.
You know, and you being needy means Christ need to attend to your neediness.
Exactly. And so now my needs are not being met.
Yeah.
You know, and so we push back. So that awareness can also help trigger sasa this process of, okay, where is this coming from within me? Kwa sababu if that wasn't within you, you just see it as something that's endearing.
Yeah.
They want to be around me majority of the time. Okay. And you can actually help them now work through that because you're in a space where you're secure.
Yeah.
You know, so in that space you'll be able to kind of help them navigate to bring them into this level of consciousness. Kwamba, actually, I don't think you want to be with me 24/7. It's just this fear within you that's forcing you to do this. And pole pole, it will exhaust me. Kwa sababu yes, we can, even if you're secure, there are times you need to continue meeting your own needs.
That's why it's important if you're also working on it.
You know, so these small things, small realizations, waking up, becoming conscious to our different flaws, being able to kind of differentiate what's mine, what someone else's. Also being able to pick up on the fact that what we see in people is something that's already, people are a reflection of us. We perceive what's already within us. So if I feel Michael's such an angry person, it's because that's something that's within me. That is why I'm seeing it within you. And there, it's a fine line. Because it's the reality. Maybe unaona kama kuna, this person's quickly triggered by things and they're quickly angered. Lakini how the gauge to see if I'm being just observant and logical, or am I, this is what is within me, is the emotional level. Because our emotions don't lie. Someone else's anger, you can be, unaweza ukasema, hasira hii kitu kidogo tu unakasirika, unaipuuzia. You can take it lightly because that's not something that's within you. That's when you know they're not mirroring back to me what I am experiencing. Lakini ukiona that their anger triggers your anger, then when you get angry because they're angry, then you know that there is something within you. So that's how you can say, this is mine, this is not mine.
When you talk to a person who knows just how crazy people's lives can be and how much they have to deal with, there's a level of humility that comes with that. You know?
Always.
You understand how tough it can get. But then there's also empathy and there's willingness to help. Kwa sababu you know kwamba this person is dealing with this. And it also helps you in terms of even in businesses, you can easily tell what is inspiring a person. You know, because at the end of the day, while we are doing business with business, but in actual sense, it's people dealing with people. You know, and sometimes that matters. Sometimes it understands the person you are dealing with. Sometimes it helps you understand how people are like when you are making your case. So even on social media, which is the biggest part, I was telling Mike the other day, kwamba sisi tulikuwa tunaenda nje kucheza mpira. You know, au kama dada wanacheza rede au mdako. Which mdako we did both actually. That was our playground. And that's where we went for social validation. You know, ambapo kama if you did not belong, ulikuwa unasema kucheza kwa unajisikia bad. You know, and sometimes you would compensate to a point whereby utanua mpira uende nao uwanjani. Hata kama unajua kucheza utapata namba.
As long as you matter of fact, watakwambia chagua team. You pick all the superstars.
Penalty unapiga wewe, kona unapiga wewe.
Na ukikusingoa unachukua mpira wako.
Unaondoka kwenu. Ukigusa kidogo tu foul. Ndo wewe, penalty ndo wewe. Ukikosa hana mtu baada kufokea. Kwa sababu mpira ni wako.
Mpaka mpira wako utakapochakaa. Atakapo mwingine atakapokuja na mpira.
Sasa yeye ndio kingpin pale. That's it.
The circle of life.
Circle of life.
Yeah.
So we used to compensate with that. You know? And we have grown up knowing how to earn our place in the society by compensating in different settings. Kama sio hapo basi shule. If you're not the smartest one, God help you, you're the funny one.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you try to find your angle.
You find your niche.
You find your niche.
No, unakomana.
Yeah. You know what? as far as relationships are concerned, I'm not funny, so I'm gonna have to have money.
Yeah.
You know? And so at the end of the day, shuleni, mtaani, hata nyumbani among your peers.
Kuna siku I was talking to my brother Togolani. Akasemaje? Our age ilikuwa kipindi hadi kushinda yote. Juu hata kuimba nyimbo za kizungu.
Bas.
Watoto wakiko watakuona yes
Bas.
this is it. Hata kama kukuongea kinakusumbua.
Ujui hata maneno yes. You know, hapo una daftari lako umejaza lyrics za ABCs.
That's it. You have to belong somewhere.
You have to belong somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, sasa the problem we're having right now is whatever squeezy, their playground is social media. You know, and the place is highly competitive.
Extremely.
For you to stand out and belong there.
Yeah.
Our version of kwenda nje kucheza na wengine and belong, for them, they are growing up is having followers and likes on Instagram and TikTok. And their version of kunua mpiras just so that they can belong is doing weird things on social media.
Yep.
Just so that they can be accepted, they can belong, you know? And that is tough kwa sababu our technology is growing faster than our ability to deal with the emotional needs people are going to rely on from social media and how we're going to help them meet them. So that is the biggest challenge we have, and that's where we are in social media. Some people, ukubwani, they have gotten to a point whereby outside, offline, their place is pretty average as far as social hierarchy is concerned. You know, but on social media, they've just realized they can be cool kids.
Yeah.
They can be popular. You know, a person who knows nothing about you. Before the podcast, I was telling Michael kwamba ana miaka 20 kwenye tasnia, you know.
Yeah.
And then yupo kwenye mtandao kijamii, kijana wa form 3 anasomea arts, anamwambia Michael, yani blaza hujui unachongea kwenye sanaa tatizo. Sielewa yani. Anakwambia tatizo blaza.
What do you know about radio production, bro?
Bro, what do you know about production? Anakwambia mimi niko mwaka wa kwanza hapa chuo TSJ nasomea mambo ya journalism.
Yeah, like what?
TSJ niko hapo 20 years. You know?
Yeah.
Niko hapa, I'm working with a big brand.
Yeah.
You know? I'm to mimi an investment nachokifanya.
Yeah.
Wajisikia vibaya.
Yeah.
But that's where they seek validation. And the problem is most people try to normalize their mediocrity. And their way of doing that is by making seem what you do isn't even all that. And when many people, it's like if I'm trying to validate myself, obviously there's another person who is trying to validate themselves. And if this person comes and finds me validating myself through Mike, like, okay, so this is where it's at.
Yeah.
You know? And then they also use Mike.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is using Mike to validate themselves. So we end up having that generation of people who are using social media to validate themselves, and they haven't equipped themselves enough to affect it. Ndio maana where we are headed mbeleni kwenye social media, watu wengi zaidi watakuja kujua kwa sababu ya social media kwa Tanzania, a lot more people, kwa sababu nchi za nje kama Marekani, a lot is being done to match social media growth with mental health. A lot is being done. It's many people are talking about social media and talking about mental health. But hapa it's about Instagram, it's about YouTube, it's about WhatsApp, it's about Twitter, Facebook. Just that nobody is zeroing in on the mental health. You guys are doing it. You're having this conversation. People are listening to it and like, oh, okay, I could be a better person. But then remember all these things we talked about, the work that needs to be done. So coming from an African family, imagine how many people have to do that kind of work of introspection, and then they find themselves in a space of social media whereby they can forget all that.
Exactly.
And just try to put Band-Aid on.
Given, thank you for coming through, my guy.
Thank you for having me.
I know it was a long conversation, but I'm really, I don't even know mdo umekimbiaje.
Yeah.
But one last thing. If of all these things, if there's one thing you would love, and I love this part of the podcast, if there's one thing you would love mtu ambaye amesikiliza sasa hivi to grasp, not to leave this episode with, what would that be?
That's a good question. I think it would be kwamba wewe ni machine. You are not in control of yourself as much as you think you are. what that means is everything you do, everything you have been through has informed how you think and how you act. Kazi yako kubwa at this point is figuring out what has informed you and how is that affecting how you see everything else. So just work to close the gap between what you think and what you know.
Nadia?
Being aware. So being aware of we adopt these patterns from somewhere. Other times, like, and it in a way it might sound like it's taking responsibility from ourselves, but in actual sense, in actual reality, we are getting it from somewhere. You know, our egos try to protect us. They make it seem like we are the problem. This is why not many of us see this pattern. I think that's the biggest thing, is to start waking up to these patterns, noticing these patterns, and question.
Yeah, and then in the end, you ask yourself, okay, so what am I going to do about it? Because it will be very clear to you what you need to do. It will be very clear. So even in the example I was using, if you realize it's because you felt you had a chance to be married, but you screwed it up, then you're like, so now what? How did I screw it up?
So what I learned from that?
Yeah, so exactly. Like what Nadia was saying. So what have I learned from that? In my next relationship, I need to manage my anger.
Yeah.
I need to communicate better. I need to do this and this and this. And you start doing that. And it goes back to what I was saying, communicating. It's like, look, I usually have a hard time dealing with anger in my relationship, but I'm working on it. Since I'm getting a relationship with you, I need you to know this. It's something I'm working on. So that all comes from knowing, and then knowing what you need to do. But if you don't go through that process, if you are angry and the person acts out, he's just like the other guy.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to what Nadia was saying, confirming.
Nimeona leo tweet ya mtu he saw a picture of certain girls and he was like, jamani, I have a problem and I gotta admit. And then he quoted that song, pombe sigara yaweza acha, lakini hao wasichana nawapenda laana. So he was like, that is my problem and that is my truth.
Bruh.
I was like, what a way to start a relationship. Come on, you're talking about table. Man. Given, thank you for coming through, my guy. It has been a very good conversation, and thank you for opening up as much as you did, because you kind of put yourself out there by being a little bit vulnerable and what. So we appreciate that, and that's the essence of the podcast. Is to actually create that platform where we as brothers, we as men can actually come together na kuwa na honest conversation about the things that we go through, our struggles, ili wanaosikiliza pia wajue kwamba there's that feeling that comes with knowing, you know, when you go see a wise person na unamwelezea matatizo yako and they're like, I've been there, I survived it, you will survive too. It's a great feeling.
Or even better, ukifanya fungine utasana wamefanya.
Sasa tunataka ndio mfano msiba wa wengi harusi.
Unasema
form 2 sio form 3. Nilipewa pepa yangu ya chemistry kuja kucheki na 21. Nikaitwa bado mwalimu, lakini kiangalia kila mtu anaangalia wale wakali. Kila mtu kaeka pembeni.
Sema
me nikapiga da. Nikamwambia jirani yangu nipige 21, akamwambia mimi nina 18. Na yeye nikipanga. Nikaangalia. Mwisho nikanyanyuka darasani, jamani mimi 22 tupo 17. You know? It ended up not being as bad as I thought. Msiba wa wengi harusi.
Essentially just me saying it's like I may seem like the perfect young person. Who is like exceptional, he has his shit together. But I know for some people are like, why can't I have it like you? You know? And this is me saying National Moja.
This is you saying.
This is me saying National Moja. It's just that I'm working on getting to me. And knowing kwamba you have National Moja helps you move forward better.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I mean, I didn't get an F.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you
I got a C.
So, and then you start thinking, I can do better. And you, because what this does is, it frees other people. You know, from the need to feel like they are.
And that's the point of a podcast.
You know, it's like for some people, just me saying this and this is what I'm dealing with, like it frees them. If they're dumb, their takeaway is like, we is not perfect.
Yeah.
If they are smart,
But-
it will be like, okay, so I can start working in this.
Yeah.
And I can
And
be great.
you have no control over their numbness or smartness.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like they can say, "Kumbe, I can start working on these things, but at the same time doing great things."
Yeah.
Oh, akasema kumbe jamaa kilaza tu.
Oh, that's
Wakosekani.
Kumbe mda wote utatuambia nini?
The issue.
Kwanza tulisikia podcast yako. You're like, hey, Michael, piga chini ile kitu. Hapa. Mambo sio mambo.
Yeah, so Given is a companion. He's mostly on Twitter, man, at Givenality. That's his Twitter handle. He tweets a lot of stuff, from football to politics. To he has evolved really. Kwa sababu tumemfollow on Twitter for a long time. Najua kabisa he has evolved and he's more in tune with himself right now and what he's aware of. We had a conversation the other day. He was like, Michael, people are scared to speak up, but for me, if I speak up and you come and trash me, it's more like a you problem, not a me problem. You know, so you have to deal with that. But I'm not gonna limit my thoughts or say I'm not gonna speak up just because of how the other person might respond.
You can have it.
If you wanna have a
say, it's like, well, that's just your opinion.
Yeah. And
like,
then again, opinions.
Yeah.
Opinions. So Given, thank you a lot. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming through. You know, Nadia at Mind Matters TZ on Twitter and Mind Matters TZ on Instagram. There's a link back kwenye bio yake, direct to the website, and then there are million ways ambao unaweza kuwasiliana naye hapo. As for me, is that man the podcast on Twitter and that man the podcast on Instagram. You know, check us out there and remember to subscribe, share, and tell other people about this free gospel that man the podcast is. Till next time, we appreciate you. Thank you for listening.
Men, the podcast.